I'm Julie Bullitt. I've been a family therapist for over 30 years.
I'm David Bullitt. I've been a divorce and family lawyer for more than 35 years.
Together, we have been married for more than 37 years.
In our professional practices, the two of us have been witnesses to individuals and families struggling with life's most difficult challenges. In this podcast, we will talk about the conversations we have had,
The conversations we should have had.
and those that every relationship needs to have in order to find success, happiness, and fulfillment.
This is Conversations for Couples.
The podcast. Welcome to Conversations for Couples.
A podcast.
So, Julie, about a year ago, we had your good friend and a friend of ours. We've known her for 30 plus years, I guess it's
Yes.
been 30 plus years. We don't want to say that much because then people are going to understand how old we are. But she came on, she was kind enough to come on after spending a couple of months on the Golden Bachelor. And we were talking about where her life was at that point. She talked about her family. She talked about John. She talked about what plans she might make, what she may do. And now you fast forward a year later, and we know some of what she did. One was she became the Golden Bachelorette. Two, she met and fell in love with a fellow who's also on with us today, Chock Chappell, who, by the way, Chock, we all had you picked at the very beginning. The soup sold me, FYI, I don't go too far into the show, but the soup I knew was going to be a winner, and we had our money on you from the get-go. But Joan and Chock have had an interesting story since the Golden Bachelorette, and we want to spend some time talking about that, not about the show so much, because unless you've been living under a rock the last year or so, you know these folks, their story. But I really want to talk about maybe some of the stuff that folks don't know and some things that maybe you haven't been asked to talk about in the last couple of months. But before I do, Chock, I want you to know that I was going to come up with a couple of softball questions. The first one I already answered for myself. It was going to be K-State or KU. I know it's K-State because that's where you went to school, right?
Well, I went to K-State. I had a son that went to KU, just recently graduated, and a daughter went to K-State. Kind of spread the love between the state schools.
Okay, fair enough. Well, I'm a Maryland fan, so I was curious as to that. And secondly, I do want to know the answer to this one: Scotch or bourbon?
Well, 20 years of Scotch. Did a little bit of bourbon, which is very popular now. But then right now it's probably red wine.
Really?
Oh,
Okay.
is that because of Joan?
Yeah. She likes Sauvignon Blanc, and that's her drink.
Oh.
And I just
Like
one or two
that way.
every evening. Had a couple last night, and they were great, and that was good. So, but I've got that personality where I'll do something for a while, then just change it up. So I'm on red wine.
We hope you don't do that with your fiance. So,
Change it up.
so
Only with his alcohol consumption.
I want to ask you both this question. I mean, and because there's so many things that are unique to your relationship. Let's start with the how are we managing living your life, trying to build a life together, being on TV, being on podcasts like this and others in the limelight, so to speak. Tell us about the things that are easy and the things that are difficult.
Chock, you want to go? You want me to go?
So, and I think the best response I have there is you make the other person a priority. So Joan and I, the show finished up in August of last year, but we talk every day. We've not had one day since we got off the cruise line in Tahiti that we haven't spoken, and many times 2 to 3 times a day. And there's the romantic part of it, but then there's the real world. And, we're mature people, so we want to know what's going on with each other's life. Can we help them? Can we just listen to them? What can we do? Family talk, family issues, family decisions, those type of things. So making the person a priority, and then making the effort to spend time together. We were in California last week. We were in New York this week. We'll see each other not this next week, but the following week we'll see each other. So we've made it a priority, and I think that's the secret when you don't live in the same state. But then really, Carrie, and I can ramble all day, and Joe knows this, but is making the person a priority and letting them know that you love them.
Yeah. And I think part of it is also like making it fun. So we've been having such a fun time doing this. We don't have like a place where we are always together. I've been in Kansas a couple times. He's been to Maryland a couple times. We've been to California, Northern and Southern California. We've been to New York a bunch of times. We've been to Cancun. So we were in actually Oklahoma like last week. So we're making it fun, and we're not like really tied to one place, which, we both kind of wanted to travel. So this has kind of been our foray into doing that a little bit. And but as far as, and so that kind of stuff, although it sounds hard, it's honestly really, really fun. And we've had a great time. We live out of suitcase a lot, but that's the worst part of it. And we get to see each other and kind of have some adventure already. I think the hard part is the people that doubt us. And I know that, not every relationship is perfect on Bachelor Nation. It's just like real world. I mean, it's really no different. And, maybe because Gary and Teresa didn't last, people look at this as maybe it's likely to fail. And we are, the farthest from it. Like every day we become stronger, we get to know each other better, we fall more in love, we start making memories, we know each other's families. And the people that doubt us, I'm not sure like what we can do or if it's even like we need to do that, but I really feel like we're like the poster people for falling in love later in life, and then doing it from separate states, and that it can work. And I want to make sure that we show that. And so I don't know how to stop the doubters. I don't know how do I make them
I don't
realize
think
that we actually are right.
Yeah, I think you just have to, there's going to be naysayers wherever you go. So I think you have to ignore them. How has it been to, sort of meld the two families? Because I know you're both very, very family focused. And I know that you had the holidays and, all that. How did you do that?
We did it right away. So our finale was in the middle of November, and we came right into the holidays really quickly. So Chock, right away had already, told his family that he wanted to spend it, here in Maryland. So both his kids came, and they were so nice. They kind of uprooted and didn't do like the thing at their home. They came to my home, which was lovely of them to do that. We kind of owe the next holiday to them. I'll uproot my family and do that. But they, we thought it was really important that we get them to meet each other really soon. And they were really excited to do that. So it was pretty easy. And then I just spent his dad's 85th birthday with him in Oklahoma. And that was really fun. So we just kind of do it gradually, but it hasn't been like a labor of love. It's been kind of a labor of love. Like we want to do it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's
I'm
really cool.
sorry, I don't know if you guys saw the helicopter, but Joan, I think now's a good time to tell you that I just bought it, and I'm going to take delivery. So
you bought a helicopter for Joan?
Awesome. I don't think you can take it all the way to Maryland, though.
It's a long helicopter trip.
Yeah. Are you going to be coming to Maryland on your helicopter?
I think you need a little jet instead.
Yeah, jet.
Maybe a jet. Yeah,
little jet. Yeah, I got to imagine that the noise that's out there, it takes a fair amount of self-control not to worry too much about what other people say and what other people think. I mean, I never have cared what people say or thought about me, so that's always been easy. But it's not been on the same scale at all. Of for me, it's wearing boots in the summertime and people look at me funny. So yours is a little bit more difficult.
Yeah.
What you want to do, though, with this show, and ABC was very good educating you. They go, it's going to be 90, 95% positive, 5 to 10% just aren't going to like you for whatever reason. And I got over it real quick. And, I'm just going to live my life. And I'm going to live my life with Joan. And because I don't think you can make everyone happy in life. And that's one of the gifts you can give yourself, is just be the best person you can and then live your life.
Yeah. And you guys are, every time I, look and see where you are, you're someplace fun, doing something awesome, which is amazing. How do you see, sort of what are you seeing, long term, like in terms of, I know you guys talked about maybe getting a place in New York, congregating there. And, where do you see this, going in terms of like living together in the same place at some point?
Chock, you want to do it?
Well, yeah, we're in I'm not going to say unique, because older people that date and get involved with each other, Joan is very connected to her family. And she told that from day one. And even before I met her, I'd read that about her, that her family was of the utmost importance. And my commitments, I'm never going to come between that. I'm kind of on the downside of my career, but I still have a couple of businesses where I'm from in Wichita, Kansas. So economically, it just doesn't make sense for me to uproot right now because they're service industries, so they're tied into the community. But the great thing is I've got very good people that help me run these businesses where I can travel and do my thing. And so that's, and plus this new age of I'm learning how to be a remote worker,
Right.
which it's a little difficult for me, but as long as you do it, as long as I take care of the employees, the clients that we have, it'll all work out. And we just love, we're still going to do something in New York, but we've been so busy, it just hasn't made sense. And we're able to do some really cool things. We went to Cancun, Mexico, thinking, oh, it'll be okay. Turned out to be a great trip. And it was just the first trip. It was just Joan and I, where there was no ABC, there was no Bachelorette, there was, no other people that we really knew. And we just had a great time. So we're going to continue with a commitment to love each other and to get to know each other too. That's the other thing is people will go, well, you took a leap of faith. We're getting to know each other every day. And I will tell you this is we talked at 6:30 this morning, Joan and I. And so, we're communicating all the time. And that is going to be the foundation, the core of our relationship is the love, but also just the communication as we navigate through the next couple of years.
Yeah. And what is we talk a lot about, David and I have written several books on, relationships, and communication is always a big factor. And I see this with couples all the time. How are your communication styles, the same? How are they different? How have you guys been navigating that?
Yeah, I think they're pretty similar. Chock is really good. So, sometimes you just need to vent about something that happened in your day. I had one of those last night, as a matter of fact, and he was having a great night. They just gone on a hunt, and he was with a bunch of buddies, and I was just venting. And he always says to me, which is such a good, you should put this in your book. Maybe it's in one of your books. Yeah. Do you want me to just listen, or do you want my opinion?
Yeah. Yes, we call that rant or remedy.
Yes, I love that.
Rant
and
or remedy.
It feels so good. Sometimes I'm like, yeah, I need your opinion, or something just let me vent, and then I'll be over this.
Yeah, because people get in trouble all the time for trying to fix something when you just want to talk about something. And Joan, I've known you for years. You're a fixer. Problems come and you're like on top of them. Chock, you own businesses. You've been a dad. My guess is you like to fix things as well. So but I love that you guys, early on in your relationship have figured out like that is key. Like, do you want my opinion, or do you want to vent, rant, or remedy? And that, and it's great that you're asking. So is there any communication, challenges?
I don't know. We talk a lot, so certainly it's not the frequency. And I think we both feel really, really comfortable pretty much talking about anything we do. I don't think there's ever been a subject that has been uncomfortable for the two of us. What do you think, Chock?
No, there hasn't. And I had something probably within this last week where Joan and I were talking, and I was frustrated with something. And then I've kind of always prided myself, and I haven't been perfect, but I go, I don't want to put the negativity off on you, Joan. And that's part of the communication where you can talk about things and then know objectively if this person's part of the problem or the solution. This just didn't have anything to do with Joan. It was just a couple of things, and it was pretty small. But I do want to. So Joan and I talked last night. She was a little wound up, but then I called her. That's the reason why I called 6:30 this morning. And there's another saying that I have: do you want to be right or happy? And especially when we're both, I'm going to say A- personalities where we've had to make decisions. We've had to be confident in what we're doing. And this morning I go, I'm just going to tell you a couple of my opinions. If you take them, great. If not. And we have what we call, and I might be jumping ahead, but at least I call them, and Joan agrees with this, is I call them silver bullets. And that's when something is of the utmost importance of the other person and you respect it. And don't use them that often, but there's, and especially when you're dealing with family too, because there's such a dynamic. And I was just going, hey, I've been thinking about this this morning. I just want to offer a couple of comments, and then, do as you may. But we've both been through a lot with the number of kids we have, the situations, and a lot of times you can learn from somebody else, not 100%, but go, hey, they did this, they didn't do this. And then I find that there's the kind of non-negotiable where I said, Joan, you thought about this? And she goes, well, I'm just going to deal with it today. And I got to.
We have a similar thing. Julie does it so often. I cringe sometimes. We call it safe talk. So if she wants to tell me something that she knows I'm going to likely to react adversely to, she'll say safe talk, and then I'll go, oh.
And it means that the other person has to listen, and also it cues that this is an important topic.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you the best thing about like that whole conversation that I had the night before last night, and then he called back with this morning, is that I thought I laid awake a lot last night thinking through it, and it was, it's so like comforting. It makes me feel so safe that somebody else was feeling my pain with me a little bit, and that I just didn't have to bear it by myself.
Oh, I love that.
He thought about it all night and had to wake up and call me.
I love that.
Yeah.
So Chock, you said you had that saying. We have a saying similar, and it's you can be right or you can be married.
Same idea.
Yeah, that's
same idea. Which is probably
I'm on that topic. I'm just going to buy the helicopter.
You're thinking of
Just buy the helicopter.
Be prepared to be wrong a whole lot of times. We've been married for 38 years, and I don't think I've been right. I don't think I've hit double digits yet. So.
I don't believe that.
Yeah, that's so hard. So yeah, Chock, what did you want to say?
I was going to say one of the beauties of growing older is you realize you don't have to be right all the time. You want to be, because you just want to make the right decisions, but it's just, there's so many other factors, or it's just such little stuff. That it just, in the big picture, is it really going to change? The last day of your life, you're going to go, well, I should have done this different, or this bothered me. No, 99.9% of it, it's just life's little nuances.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And that's what makes, I think, being more mature, a very positive thing when you're in a relationship. I mean, there's so many things that people talk about as being, challenging, that you're set in your ways or you have likes or dislikes. But I do think that as we age, we learn that we can, the little stuff is not that important. And I think when we were younger, we definitely thought everything was important.
Sure.
So I wanted to kind of dive in. We've had a theme of like the mature relationship, the relationship that's, a little bit different than when you were 20 or 30 years old. And I wanted to find out if you would, if you're comfortable sort of talking about like, what is the intimacy been like as an older couple? Because it's different than it was when you were 20 or 30.
Well, we still have it. I can tell you that much. That's not a problem at all. But you do, okay, we're all adults. This is adult conversation.
I didn't even have to ask you if you wanted to speak first that time.
I didn't even have to ask.
Yeah.
I got to tell you the story. We were in New York City and had this great meal. And we're kind of looking at each other, giving each other the eye, kind of winking and going like this. And so we're both getting excited. And by the time we got back to the hotel room, we were riding up on the elevator. We both looked at each other and go, we're going to bed. We're just going to sleep. And that's again, the beauty of being older. It's just, So, no, you just have to talk about things. Yeah, absolutely. And
yeah. Cause things change, our bodies change, the way, the way we perform changes, everything changes. And I would imagine that comes into play. I've had a lot of girlfriends date, later in life, and they'll often talk about, issues that come up in the bedroom that wouldn't have come up when you're 20 or 30.
Yeah. But part of
I've got just something this because for your listener standpoint, this is real life, and people go, is this real? But I had a prostate PSA that jumped up, and Joan and I had a conversation about it right when we were just, really getting serious. Yeah. And but I love being able to talk about that stuff, because from a guy's standpoint, if you have prostate issues and something doesn't work, it's a big deal for a guy. And Joan and I had that conversation, and I'm okay, but it's just one of those scary things in my life. Mm-hmm. And so I will just tell you it's real. So I'm sorry for interrupting you.
No, and I really, we appreciate you being so transparent here. David and I were talking earlier, and he's like, well, what do you want to ask them? And I'm like, I want to ask them, how is it in the bedroom when you're entering into like a 60-year-old, first relationship?
And I made sure she asked those questions. I thought they'd be better from her than from me.
I know.
But we haven't heard from Joan yet. So
yeah. Well, see, part of it is, the fact that we don't see each other every single week. So when I do see him, I'm actually really excited in a number of ways to see him. Yeah. So like that, the spark has been there since the beginning. I always thought that he was super attractive, and, I thought he was really handsome. And so, you got to have that. And then you just got to make sure the body is working the way it used to. And so sometimes that requires some interaction or some action, but
Yeah.
we have it pretty well figured out, to be honest.
Good to
Yeah,
know.
yeah. It hasn't been all that different than when we were younger, to be honest, at least for me. I think that, yeah, it's been really good in that category, and I hope it will always stay that way. I
I
mean,
want to talk to
That's
you about the
nice.
distance
That's
thing
awesome.
yep.
because Julie and I spend a lot of time apart. Now we're not, halfway across the country apart, but I just finished spending close to a month, down in Delaware because
Yeah.
we're selling this house. And
Mhm.
the last thing she wanted was for me to be around with the dogs and,
Yeah.
me plastering something on the walls or whatever the case may be. So I think it was close to 2.5 weeks, that we didn't see each other. And we have throughout our marriage since very early on, even when our kids were younger, we would take time, and go away for a weekend or whatever it is. Now those weekends now have turned into like 5 or 6 day weekends.
Good for you.
People do look at us and say, how do you do that? It doesn't seem healthy. And for us,
It
it's been very healthy. And it does give you that same kind of, even after 38 years, it does. I still get that same
Right.
kind of
He
excitement
comes home
that
and he
you're talking
can't keep his hands off of me. And he's like,
about. Well, that's
yeah.
true after an hour. So.
Well, that's true too. But
That's important. I mean, I don't think people realize the importance of intimacy. I guess unless you don't have it, but I had some time off. John had passed away, and I wasn't intimate with people. So like that part of your relationship is important. And when you don't have it, I know you guys haven't had a time when you haven't had it. You can take my word for it. You miss it. You really do. And it's not just like the actual like having sex, but it's just being that like level of closeness to just one other person in the world. Like they are your person that you do that with. And it's just a different closeness. And it's hard to explain, but when you don't have it, you do miss it.
yeah. And interestingly, as we've been married for 38 years together, 40 years, but definitely the exciting newness of intimacy has been very hard to keep up. And I would say that we work really hard on trying to keep that growing and flourishing so that it's not just like once a week, same position kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I think as you get older, it takes more and more work for that to happen. You know what I'm saying? And I think, it's important to both of us that we do that. And listen, it's not always like, star spangled banner, intimacy, but but we do try to, make it spicy.
She got stuck on the ceiling fan the other day. I had a lot of trouble. She was hanging. I couldn't
Chasing her around.
Yeah, he was chasing her around. Yeah, no, that didn't happen. But anyway, well, we're glad that you're working at that. And I was interested because I know you specifically, Joan, did not, participate in the, during
Fantasy
the show,
suites.
the fantasy suites, that you were really transparent about not, being intimate with more than one person. And so you chose not to. And I was wondering, how did it work out afterwards? And it sounds like it worked out great.
I think it worked out better because I don't know specifically about Chock, but I think most men wouldn't want to think of the person that they're intimate with as having had another partner like very like the 2 days before or the week before or whatever. So I felt strongly about that. I never wanted to give the impression that being intimate wasn't important. That wasn't what I intended to do there at all. It meant just for me personally, and I can't speak for anybody else, other people may not be the same way, or a lot of people aren't, but being intimate with only one person is important to me. So that's the only way I could do that.
Yeah. I wanted to ask about, and Chock, you've probably been asked this before, but I was curious about the bowling alley scene where you sort of, like I would say you were kind of like a dog that, peed all over their territory with Joan. You made sure that, Joan remembered you and the other guys knew that this was your lady. And I wanted to find out, was that really you? Or was it some prompting from the show? Or can you just, tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I will back up and answer that question. Is the magic started really when I got out of the limo and first met Joan, but then I was very fortunate to have the first one-on-one date at Disneyland. And the dinner that we had that night, you could just tell there was a connection. And I'm out at this dude ranch this weekend, had a lot of people come up and go, we could just tell at the Disneyland date, the dinner, that you guys were,
Mhm.
you were going to go a long way with this. So the bowling alley was interesting because it was the first time the other guys got to see how close Joan and I really were.
Mhm.
And I didn't come back. Some of the guys did, but I didn't come back and go, Joan and I talked about this. We're madly in love. That's private to me, very private, and it happened absolutely natural. And what was interesting is because I've got some heat on this, and I'll just tell you my version of the
Mhm.
story.
Mhm.
When we walked into the bowling alley, Joan was there. Everybody hugged her and went on. And most of the guys started putting their names in, their nicknames in the scoring machine, the computer that you put in there. And I just went right up to Joan. I'm like, I don't care what you call me. I don't, I want the time with Joan. And that actually happened on the kickball date as well.
Mhm.
Guys
Mhm.
were overstretching and doing all this, and I
Mhm.
just instantly went to Joan. So it was the first time they saw that connection, and there was a couple of them that really didn't like it. And
Mhm.
it wasn't me trying to, as you said, pee on, my possession or my dog bone. It just naturally happened. And
Mm.
there was some editing in there, and I can't go into that, but I will tell you, I did say to Joan, and I will own this. I said, "Hey, let me just take you home. Let's
Oh,
let's."
yeah.
Call the show off.
No, I had not watched any of the other
Yeah.
back shows. I didn't know that happened once. We're early into it. A couple just said, "Hey, we're
Oh.
together." Show.
Yeah.
And I was kind of joking, but Joan, it was sitting there and the camera didn't do this, but I kissed her on the back of the head and it was just so natural.
Mhm.
And, for us to do that. So it was a big moment for us, but it was also a big moment for the guys to see that, Joan and I did have a connection.
Right.
Yeah. 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 Well, I mean, it was interesting to watch, but I didn't know if that was something that was just felt like natural to you or that they asked you to do or, you
No,
know,
not at all. I
okay.
also think part of it was I didn't get up and walk away. So if I wasn't interested in him, I would have moved from where I was sitting. But I
Right.
kept that same seat and he kept his same seat.
Right.
We all bowled and did our thing, and I kept coming back to the same seat.
Yeah.
So I think it was not just Chalk, doing his like claiming his territory or, saying, that we were a good couple. I didn't leave either. So I think it maybe was a bigger message than just Chalk. It was
Mm,
that I didn't
interesting.
actually go over and try to be with them either.
Interesting.
It, and the thing, if I can too, because I
Yeah.
do, if the fans really want to know, it's not like I was competing for Joan, but Jordan and I were the two most competitive guys on the show, and we were going for top score. And they have a little deal where I go, "Hey, Jordan," and it had nothing to do with Joan. We were battling for the top scores. Two guys do,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah. So, Chalk, how do you deal with? I mean, Joan is first of all, beautiful, smart. She has it all, and it's not just that I'm saying that because she's my friend. It's true,
You are.
and she's my friend too. But how do you deal? Because there's obviously, I mean, there was all these guys that wanted to be with her, and there continues to be a lot of male, attention. How do you deal with that in terms of like, security? How do you make yourself be okay with, her being in the limelight and getting a lot of male attention?
I'm made a little bit different. And I know this, and a lot of other people don't know it, but I need the person to want to be with me. And if they don't want to be with me, then I'm okay with it because I don't want them to be miserable, unhappy. I don't want the same thing with myself. They, at the end of the show, they're going, well, what, the producers, well, it was asked, I shouldn't say producers, but, what are you going to do if she doesn't pick you? And I go, well, I'm going to grab the driver. I'm going to go to a bar. I'm going to probably call some of my friends and we're going to have some drinks tonight. And then, I'll process it tomorrow. I obviously would have been devastated if it wouldn't have gone this way because I love Joan. But I look at it as from an unselfish standpoint is I want that person to be happy. And a
Mm,
lot of timing. Joan said, up front, she goes, you'd never be here. I wouldn't be here if John was still alive.
mm,
And, it's reality, and you just have to be okay with it.
yeah.
And, both of us, Joan's, from a humanistic standpoint, Joan is much more attractive than I am. But people are attracted to people for different reasons. I love Joan's class and her demeanor with people and how she treats people. And it's her decision, if she wants to be with me or not. And so far, she wants to be there, and I'm great. But I wish everybody that I have a relationship, whether a romantic relationship, a business relationship, or just a friendship, I want them to be happy. And that's how I'm going to live the rest of my life.
That's interesting.
So let me shift for a second. You both have kids. I know, Joan, you've got grandchildren. And so here we are on the East Coast. We're in the Midwest. We've got grown children. Somehow we've got to get these kids, these adult kids, to meet each other, and we want things to go well, right? So how much pressure was that for the two of you, either the first time or the first couple times? And I'm not talking about when you were on TV together. I'm talking about when you came over for the holidays or wherever you went. How much pressure did you feel? How did you work your way through it, if there was any? And finally, how are all the kids doing in terms of getting along with each other and understanding that the two of you are in each other's lives?
Joan, do you want to take that one?
Sure. So, obviously it was really important, but maybe not to the degree you think of as two families that are going to merge and live together. So like if this happened to us when we were in our 40s and we had younger kids and they were going to need to, we were going to need to merge them and possibly them live part-time or full-time together, that it would have been a lot harder. This was really about our adult kids liking to be together. So when Chock and I, chances are they're never going to live in the house with us again. I'm hoping my kids don't live in the house with me again. He doesn't want his kids living in the house. Yep. It's that when we're together, maybe for holidays or when we go on vacation, or, at weddings or family functions that we're all going to be together, that they have fun and they get along. So the pressure wasn't as bad as what you would think, because it's not a living situation. It's just, they're going to want to hang out with each other and go to the beach or be at Disney World together or be, at each other's, weddings or whatever. All of those big life events that we're going to share and they're going to be part of. But it wasn't like we had to get them together and say, are you going to be able to go to high school together? Or are you going to share a car?
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. So what is the biggest disagreement that you guys have had so far?
Okay, I'm going to take that one.
Yeah.
and
make it look bad.
I'm going to say, and we're very lucky because it hasn't been a disagreement. It's just been a point of view. Miss Joan really likes a good parking spot. And then the one mistake that I've made is I took her cell phone charger. And did I get in trouble for that? So,
I think we ought to preface. Okay, I want to defend myself on both of those. First one, parking space. We were going out to dinner. It was really cold, and I had high heels on. And so I do understand his parking spot thing. He has a big pickup truck. So to park and to go in and back out of, it is, parking far away. I get that. Yep. It's easier to do that. We were driving my little Audi, which is not big, my little Audi SUV. And he drove by 4 spaces and then took this one that was really far away. It was cold. I had high heels on. We were going to a nice dinner. I just did my hair. I looked pretty and I didn't want to look yucky and I didn't want my feet to hurt. As far as the phone charger, I had just had a conversation with him. I said, when my kids were growing up, it was right around Christmas time. I said, I always used to give my kids phone chargers because they used to steal each other's and steal mine. So every year in their stockings, I would give them each a set of 4 phone chargers, and I color coded them. So I would know if Allie, you have Erica's charger, hers is blue or whatever. So I could referee the arguments. And then my pet peeve was I would go to bed sometimes at night and I'd come down in the morning and one of my kids' friends had taken my charger and they were gone. So it was a weekly thing. So it was I had just told him all those things. And the next morning I go down to use my charger and it's gone. It's what are you thinking?
Oh, took it to that parking spot that was a mile and a half away.
He needed a charger. Yeah.
I have to tell you, with my unique personality, I will purposely bypass now the spot right next door just to watch your expression. And you can just see Joan going.
So now I just don't let him drive my car. I drive everywhere.
To be honest with you, I would drop Julie off, but I got a big truck, and I don't want to be. I don't want anybody And you know what happens? You go in a parking lot that's 90% empty, and then somebody in an old Valiant pulls up about 3 inches from your door. And so, Julie's always the one, well, there's one right in front. I'm like, nope, not taking
Yeah,
that
my
one.
favorite thing to do is after we parked far away, we walk and I'll go, what was wrong with that space? What was wrong with that space? What was wrong with that space? And David's like, well, we didn't get that one. I'm like, well, why didn't we? Right? It's the same thing. Yeah, the same thing.
Yeah.
Thank you, Julie, for validating everything he just said.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
They're not wearing heels. So it sounds like, it sounds to me, as a therapist, like you guys are, it's just some small things that you're working out, that nothing.
We totally laugh about them. I mean, they're funny things. It's nothing that ever is going to give me 1 second of pause.
Okay. And the socks. I did see that there were some sock issues. And Chock, do you want to talk about?
It's a fetish. I think it's a fetish.
Okay.
Not an issue.
Chock, I'll give you like 2 minutes of therapy right now. Tell me about your relationship with socks.
Well, it's not just socks. I'm an accumulator. And some people call that a hoarder, but I'm an accumulator, a collector, an aficionado.
Socks.
I was with someone for 9 years, but we didn't live together. So I've been a single guy raising my kids. And I just have an issue folding socks, and I cannot deny it. I probably need therapy. If there's any drugs that will help me complete folding socks, I would probably take them.
Okay.
It's just something that's weird. But everything else, I'm pretty, anal. I make sure it's done, but I'll do laundry and these socks are there. And I'm like, nope, not going to do them. Not going to do them.
So
you're accumulating again.
Yeah. So you're sock avoidant. That would be the diagnosis. I'm giving you a sock avoidant.
His SA. It's a severe case of SA.
Yes. Severe. Yes. So sock avoidant. He doesn't want to fold his socks. So he probably goes out and buys new ones. And
he does. That's how he had 346 pairs.
Yes. Yes. So this is an issue. We can dive into this another time, Chock, but I think this is
going to require more time.
There is some help for you.
The sock episode.
Yes,
that'll be a big one.
Yeah.
Call it sock it to him.
Well, and I do want to talk about
that's right. Well, we want to thank you guys very much for taking the time. I don't want to take too much of it. No. It's been wonderful talking to you. It's terrific. It's really, really cool to see two folks that are finding their way with a lot of, in fairness to a lot of us, a lot of challenges, right? A lot of things that people struggle with, distance, families, second time around, that sort of thing, later in life. So you both deserve a pat on the back. And we appreciate you coming on. For those of you out there, you can find both these folks on Instagram, and we'll put the information in our show notes. For us, we are The Bullets, THEBULITTS. You can find us on all major social media platforms. Our website is www.thebullets.com. We're on YouTube. We're in Pinterest. I don't even know where the heck we are, but
we're everywhere.
Thank you both of you
and
for coming
please subscribe to hear more of our podcast. And we thank you for joining us, our two very special guests.
Thanks so much.
This is the Conversations for Couples,
the podcast. Julie Bullitt is a professionally licensed clinical social worker and family therapist. David Bullitt is a divorce and family lawyer. Julie is not your therapist, and David is not your lawyer. This podcast is meant for educational and entertainment purposes only.